Hi everybody, it's Catherine Graham here from Journey Healers, and I am here to talk to you today about Ohana generational healing. So Ohana generational healing, Ohana is the Hawaiian word for family, is a healing modality that allows us to look at the inherited family trauma that is coming forward from generation to generation and limiting people from being able to live the life that they're here to live. Now, within Ohana generational healing, it's a hands-on energy modality that's broken down into two parts. So the first part would be that the client comes in and the client does a questionnaire. And in that questionnaire, it allows the practitioner to see what the patterns are and what patterns are most significant for the client in what's causing their limitations within their life. After that, the client would lay down on the bed and the client would receive the Ohana generational healing, which actually works on 15 generations of inherited family crap. Okay. So Ohana generational healing was a gift that was given to me by my guides. I feel like I'm shaking the camera all over here because I keep hitting the table and I talk with my hands. So it's a gift that was given to me by my guides. Back in 2012, we had the experience of sexual abuse come up again in our family. And this is a pattern that has shown up generation after generation after generation in our family. And when it came up again, I had gone to a counselor and I wanted to talk to them about my own triggers and stuff with it. And one of the things that I said was that it's like our family is cursed, or that we've just got this pattern and we're just not figuring out what it is we need to release in order to be able to be done with the sexual abuse. And I was tired of it. And I was tired of it continuing to come up no matter how much healing that I was doing on myself. To keep seeing that pattern, it gets a little bit annoying and a little bit hurtful and a little bit frustrating. And so the counselor looked at me and said, now you're just making excuses, that it's not a pattern. It's not something that it is a family curse or anything like that. And that I perhaps wasn't healing it the way I needed to be healing it. And so I was kind of shut down from that. And I walked out of the counseling session and I didn't return. And I kind of let the idea of it being a family curse just be released because I was like, okay, obviously I was wrong. In 2016, I came across an article written about Mark Wallen and his work that he had done with a young man who had a university scholarship. He was playing baseball. He was a great student. And then one day he woke up and he wasn't able to function because he thought he was going to die in his sleep and he was going to freeze to death. And this was something that just kept coming up for him. And so he ended up losing his scholarship. He dropped out of school. He couldn't get his stuff together. He couldn't even figure out what was causing the fear in the first place. He just knew he was freezing and he thought he was going to die. And it wasn't until he had actually worked with Mark Wallen that he realized that he had had an uncle who had actually died of hypothermia out in the Yukon Territory while working on some hydro poles. And that was a story that was in the family that hadn't been told to him in the past. And so when Mark had said to him, has this ever happened to anyone else? And he was oblivious. Then he went home and he talked to his parents. And his parents explained to him, yeah, this was your dad's brother and this is what happened to him. And then suddenly the fear started to dissipate. And so Mark Wallen's work actually works with the inherited family trauma to allow you to see where that story is coming from or where that fear is stemming from. And I read Mark's book after reading the article, and I was absolutely on fire. Everything that I read from that book resonated with me on such a deep level that it was like my soul was speaking to me through the book, but then through outside source as well, I guess inside source, whatever you want to call it. And I was being given these different things to try in energy healing. And I'm certified in all of these different energy modalities. And so it was almost like it was encompassing different aspects of each one, but then pulling in a brand new energy to be able to heal this inherited family trauma on the energetic level. Mark's work was working on the intellectual and the emotional level, but this was something that was bringing it all together for me. And so a few weeks after reading the book, I actually had a client reach out to me, and she was looking for inspiration or words of wisdom or something to get her out of the funk that she was feeling. And so I had said to her, I've got this new thing that I'm kind of working on. Not even really sure what it is right now. But if you're willing to trust me to work on your energy with this, I would love to have you into my office, and I would love to try it on you. And so she agreed, and she came in and she had the very first Ohana generational healing session ever. And it's changed quite a bit since her first session, but she actually gave me the trust to go forward with what it was that I was being led to be able to do. And she was able to break through some of her own limiting thought beliefs and allow herself to move forward in her life. Since then, I've worked with over 200 people in doing the Ohana generational healing. And as I said, it's changed. It's become something that's so much more than just, putting the hands on. It's working with up to 15 generations at a time to help eliminate or release those patterns that are getting stuck in the DNA. So how does it get stuck in the DNA in the first place? Is any time that someone experiences trauma, it gets attached into the DNA levels because your stress response just kind of goes, hey, this is trauma and we need to stay safe. And so the stress response starts to send off all of these signals into the body, and the body starts to react accordingly to keep us safe. The problem with trauma is that if we don't have a safe space or a brave space to be able to go out and say, this is what my experience has been and I need healing, and we open ourselves to healing, then that trauma can actually become trapped in the epigenome and the gene of the DNA. And so it does that not because it wants us to hold on to all of this trauma, but more so to keep us safe so that we're not experiencing that trauma ever again. So if you think about like the cavemen way back in the day, something traumatic for them might be watching someone being attacked by a tiger. And so their body associates the tiger with danger. And if they see a tiger, their stress response, rather than going up to the tiger and going, here, kitty, 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 have a treat, their stress response will say, that's danger. And now I must pump more blood to your heart so that you can run as fast as possible. And we'll get blood to your muscles to make you extra strong. And it sends off this warning signal. It's the same if when you're driving a vehicle and you see brakes in front of you suddenly, your stress response kicks in and it goes, we need to slam on the brakes. And so when we experience trauma, if it's a relationship breakdown, if it's addictions, if it's abuse of any kind, extreme poverty, even nowadays with bullying, all of it is trauma. And our body begins to store the information of that trauma so that we can react and save ourselves in future events of that happening. And so we might have a response to trauma to just cower in a corner and not allow ourselves to move forward. We might have a response to stress or trauma in that we get angry and we fight for what it is we believe is right, and yet we don't feel as though we're being heard, which adds to that trauma. And if we think of our ancestors and the things that they actually experienced, so their war and their famine and diseases and children dying from illnesses that nowadays is quite preventable, a lot of times they were told to just move on with it. There really wasn't a whole lot of space to allow themselves to grieve. And there wasn't a whole lot of space or even conversation about mental health or the aspects that can change within the mental health spectrum when we actually experience trauma. Too much trauma in a person's life can actually debilitate them to the point that their body can no longer function the way that their body is meant to function. And so when we look at the inherited family trauma, as well as our own personal trauma, whether that's a pattern or it's something new that just began with you, it's all affecting your body, it's affecting your mind, it's affecting your spirit and your emotions. And with the with the Ohana generational healing, the idea behind it is to help us release what's trapped within the body that's preventing us from being able to move forward and to fully step into our potential as human beings without holding on to the old stories of what our ancestors have had to experience, while also holding that space for them to be able to experience the healing as well. Because whether we like to believe it or not, our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, our aunts, our uncles, our great-great-great-grandparents, etc., even if the stories about them have been horrific or have been hurtful or mean or whatever it is that you want to label them as, they are all just hurt people too, who are also looking for that healing within themselves, that are looking for that healing within their family. And so I invite all of you to look further into Ohana generational healing, or look further into just what your inherited family traumas are, to see if Ohana generational healing might be something that you could experience, or even something that you could bring into your own healing practice as something that you would like to give to your clients. Our website is www.ohanagenerationalhealing.com. And if you have any questions, just shoot them off to me and I'll do my best to answer them, okay? Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.